Because if you do sound like everybody else, then you're just going to get turned in that grinder of AI and they're not going to spit out a link that's yours.
Talked about some of the, I suppose, strategies under the marketing umbrella. Talked about the marketplaces, the newsletters, the lead magnets, the podcasts, the host events. Let's say, I don't know, we used to work on Coke and 8%, but let's say we're working on a 4% of revenue is rough rule of thumb. So, 40,000, I've got $40,000, I'm doing $1 million of turnover to spend a year. Is there any rule of thumb as to which ones are best, or is it depending upon where the niche is? Like, give us a bit of a perspective on that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think if I had the answer to that question for any person that asked it, I would be retired on a beach somewhere. I'm not sure. It doesn't work the same for everyone. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't even work the same for me from agency to agency, right? Because my target market can be completely different than I'm in a beautiful town outside of Vancouver, and you wouldn't believe how many agencies are here. None of them focus on what I focus on, but if we tried to do the exact same marketing tactic, mine would fail following the persons down the street. So it is really specific to each partner and who they're targeting. And that is one reason we don't really, if you come to our website, we don't have a lot of packages. We don't have a lot of package services like come get your SEO package for X a month, because it just doesn't work like that. I mean, sometimes long form blog content is all someone needs to add to their marketing mix to really drive more visibility and get really specific about who they're after. But often it's a mix of different things, and it does matter what you've done before. So if you have a really worn out email marketing list and we decide we're going to come in and do an email marketing sequence for you, well, that email is probably not going to do that well because you've over emailed that list and it's tired and people have unsubscribed and maybe undelivered, or you haven't kept it clean. And so everybody's at different email addresses. Like there isn't something, or even paid media, it's so different from like micro industry to micro industry. And so there is a lot of learning and testing. One of the things we often do with clients is do a performance audit before we start working with them. So we have an idea of where they're starting at. What's their benchmark? Because I could give you a benchmark of every partner we worked with, but their size could be under $1 million to closer to $1 billion. If I told you to do the things that we're working to closer to $1 billion, would that help your business move forward? It probably wouldn't work the same. Like we're starting at different entry points, and you may not even be going after the same customers. But what I can say is for a company that size, what we do find is that they've probably underinvested in marketing up till now, because if it's that size, there's probably been an owner doing a lot of the marketing. And so they're doing it off the side of their desk. So consistency hasn't been something that they've been able to hit because the owner is responsible for everything. So the first thing we would try to do is, of course, get the messaging right. Make sure whoever you're talking to that you have the right messaging for, and you've got those pain points addressed, and you've got those business outcomes addressed. But then work on consistency. And so for $40,000, I wouldn't say go pay to play, because that can burn pretty fast. Yes. But getting some kind of consistent marketing cadence where you're putting out SEO content, you're able to then promote that on social, start to build that email list and database. And, maybe you can show up on a Paul podcast and be able to promote things like reaching out and being featured by third parties. Maybe it's showing up at an industry event and then having more content that comes back from that. But getting yourself on a content schedule that is regular, so you're putting out content at regular rhythm, so you can see things like organic search traffic go up, and then like things like leads follow, and then some customers that may have gone dead a little while ago, gotten some emails from you, and they start to come back into the picture because you've sent them something that's now more relevant and interesting. And then you're reaching out more on social and maybe connecting to other networks via LinkedIn and able to, cross promote that even further. Like those are the types of things that I would just say getting consistent when you've had that off the side of my desk style to marketing is a good way to start to just get that foundation built, making sure your messaging is there. And then, even auditing what you've put out there. Is there something better I could be putting on my homepage that's more relevant than who I'm talking to and what I'm doing today? Like some of that cleanup is really where you focus, and then you expand from those early wins when you start to see what's working for your business.
Yeah, and the analogy I often use because of my health history with my transplant is, doctors versus surgeons. And, I think
Mm.
the analogy applies here where sometimes the frustration you've had with an agency is because you've gone to a GP that's got a million clients or they've got a million patients waiting and they just want to quickly give you an answer. Here's a tactic, go and take that pill. And it's not that they're doing anything wrong, but that's just their model, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, Erica and what she does is more of the specialist where she does actually fully diagnose you and then says, okay, for your specific niche, etc., and for your experience and what you're good at, etc., and what the client needs, well, this is the best avenue. And what I'm hearing from you is it's more in that getting that selection right than it is with the new shiny objects. Like it sounds like there's not one thing at the moment that's really moving the needle more than anything else that no one's ever come across before. Have I sort of got that right?
That's right. I mean, there's a flavor of AEO we're trying with all of our clients right now, just because we're seeing that needle move. But if I told you to go write everything for AI right now, you would have a huge fall off in traffic for everyone that's still using Google the way Google's been used for years and years and years, or DuckDuckGo or whatever. It is something that we're integrating into the mix, but it isn't something that we're solely focused on. So, for example, we're adding a fact section to every page that we're putting on a website because we know that, again, you're not prompting AI the way that you're writing in Google. So it's really
Yes.
like trying to spread the needle or spread the net a little wider because people are behaving differently. It's kind of the same situation as when, voice became asking through search. People use their voice differently than the way that they type. So there was an adaptation for that. Some people use Alexa more and not so much relevant in the industry that we're in, but irrelevant into a lot of industries where you did have to adapt. And so sometimes that's just instead of taking this one or two keyword search term, you're now spreading it out to 5 or 6 ways that you're trying to attract an audience using the same net, but the net just got a little bigger at the top.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, this is once again subjective, not objective, but I get the sense that as research and deep research gets easier and easier with AI, that means
Mm-hmm.
that you therefore by default have to stand out more and have a clearer proposition because I think the AI is going to reward that more and more because you will be
Yeah.
appearing in more and more of those searches. So that's my anecdotal and
Yeah.
I suppose more of a gut feel. Have you got any facts or any evidence to back up that?
Yeah, I mean, we have been doing presentations on AI. I mean, we've been testing AI for, I guess now the last like 30 months or so, because of
Yes.
course, for content creators, which that is one of the things we do, that was one of the early targets for AI was like, how is a content creator going to exist through AI? Well, the fact of the matter is, it's just kind of mulling through a bunch of content and then spewing out the other side things that have already been said, which is still good. It's not terrible. Actually, AI and a lot of AI are very good writers. They do seem to have grammar down pretty well in most cases, unless you ask for it not to be. But it's not new and it's not unique and it's not differentiated to your messaging. So we've been coaching. If you are going to use AI, which we know everybody is, then you're going to have to take these steps as an editor. So maybe you're not first count writing anymore. You're spending a lot more time editing, but that editing has to differentiate exactly who you are to make sure that that hit again your target audience, etc. Because if you do sound like everybody else, then you're just going to get turned in that grinder of AI and they're not going to spit out a link that's yours. It's just going to be, I could find this anywhere and I found it on 10 sites. Great, this must be the answer.
Yeah, it's great. And I love someone I heard on a podcast recently said red pen versus black pen. So, we used to be black
Mm-hmm.
pen where we originate everything
Yes,
ourselves. Now we're more red pen, which is editing
absolutely.
what it's done. And, if I think, and just a reminder, we're talking to Erica, episode 610, is, I think it's to really win. And if you really want to step up your game, it's sort of three things. So one is because you've got an incredible amount of knowledge yourself. Then you've got the AI that helps you draw that out. So you've got client calls, you've got sales calls, you've got all this knowledge that the AI can then leverage on. And then
Yeah.
you put your specialists like Erica on top of that, then to really do what I don't think AI can do at the moment, which is all of the knowledge that you've got. Because Erica's knowledge isn't sitting on AI, right? Like she's got a proprietary to her and a team, the Maven team. That's the secret sauce that you put on. I don't think AI has just sped that up, but I don't think fundamentally it's changed it as yet. Yeah, you tell
Absolutely.
me your
That's
thoughts
our
on that.
experience. Yeah, that's been our experience. I mean, we're always pulling in subject matter experts, and whether they want to use AI to jot down their notes or not, that both work for us. We interview them too, whatever they have time to do or however their thought process goes. But yeah, I mean, most of the time when we're editing AI, it's a real bloody mess at the end. Like it's got great ideas, the meat's there, but it may not be in the right order. It doesn't focus on the messaging. We're not really pulling out the best points. Yeah, that red pen is strong when we're editing for AI. And then AI, it doesn't do any SEO or AEO. I mean, I'm sure it's kind of prompting for itself, but it's not prompting in a way that, we're really focusing on topics outside of what we've talked about up here. It's kind of just regurgitating the same thing. So all of that technical work of being findable through different engines still has to be done because that metadata isn't existing in that format, at least not yet. And the times we've tested, it's still not good at it.